Hello everyone, Shooty here. Take two of this video. I recorded two videos now, and you will never hear the audio to either of them. Man. The first one was like a rambling type video, and I kind of sat on it and decided I really didn't want to put out that kind of video. Um, so I went and did a Kingdom, Kingdom Come Deliverance. I'm already forgetting the title of this game, and it's the one I'm about to talk about. Kingdom Come Deliverance review. That was the that was the second video, and then I saw a 2-hour review of Kingdom Come Deliverance and decided my 30-minute review did not do it justice. So here I am the revisiting the we're doing take two because I felt like doing a better job. So where to begin? Where to begin? I'll begin with the story of the game. So apparently, the story of this game is like loosely based on or built around actual medieval history in Europe, particularly in I think from a Czech perspective. It takes place in a location they refer to as Bohemia. I don't know where that is. I am I am an American. I am completely ignorant to medieval history for the most part. Uh, not of not well versed in that. It's not my forte. Um, so a lot of the historical nuances are lost onto me. Um, but it is kind of neat that they took that route. You get to learn a lot about like uh so I guess like spoilers for starters. Uh Secondly, before I actually delve into like the plot of the game, I want to like talk about just the meat of what the story of what the meat is made of in the story. This game is taking realism almost to the nth degree. It is trying really, really hard to be almost true to life as to what how things are and how they act for the most part and how things work. So that also translates into the story. And what's kind of neat is you do kind of get to learn about how medieval feudalism, European feudalism, how that worked. Um, because it's often in a modern perspective, especially an American perspective, the nuances of how a monarchy works is lost on us. We often think of monarchies as being like, oh, there's a king and he's in charge and that's it. It's like it is really not exactly that. Like, yeah, the king's in charge, but then that's broken down into different titles of lordship and uh, all sorts of manner different like people in charge of one thing or another. In fact, I think like there's a common misconception with monarchies, and it's that a common misconception in monarchies is you can just like kill your family and then you get to be king. If your dad's king and you don't want your dad to be king anymore and you want your like father or you don't want your brothers to be king or your mom to become queen, you just kill them all and then you get to be king. It's actually does not work that way. There's actually a very like rigid line of succession and stuff like that. It's not something a lot of people truly realize when it comes to how the um, monarchies work and such. And that topic's kind of like will lead us, transition us into the actual bones of the plot here. So the plot is about there is there was this king in charge of the Holy Roman Empire. He built this big empire, and it was like very successful and prosperous. And when he died, it got passed on to his son, and his son is kind of a fucking buffoon, so to speak, or rather, what I should say is he's irresponsible with his power. He's just not. He doesn't care about the actual duties of being a king. He even misses his own crowning, like the emperor crowning ceremony. So he doesn't actually get officially crowned emperor of the Holy Roman Empire or something like that. So this frustrates his brother, who wants to be king in his brother's stead, or emperor or whatever in his brother's stead, because he thinks he could do a better job. So his brother, I think his name was Sigismund, is the heir. The Sigismund's brother, whose name is lost on me. There's a lot of name drops in this game. Sigismund's brother decides what he's going to do is he's going to force everybody to declare him emperor. So he goes to I don't know where Cumans come from, but he goes and he gets a bunch of Cuman soldiers together to build a big army, and he basically goes around trying to intimidate the lords into basically voting him in as king or emperor. And your hometown happens to be one of the targets. So you're the character you play as is Henry, who is the son of a blacksmith. He's not the chosen one. He's not dragonborn. He isn't the Witcher. He's not anything but the son of a blacksmith. And you're growing up in this town called Skalitz, run by Lord Radzik, Sir Radzik of Skalitz. And basically Sigismund's army rolls up and fucks your town up. He just goes ham. He kills everybody and everything he possibly can. He completely fucks the town. You playing as Henry get away from the carnage. You go to the nearby town of Talmberg. You warn them of what happened. Radzik and a few other people do escape. Not your parents. It should be importantly noted that your parents are dead. They are dead. So now you're an orphan. You have no home. Henry decides he wants to basically avenge his parents, so he goes into the service of Sir Radzik as his serf, and Radzik accepts him. And then the game basically goes from there, where you're kind of just going into one little adventure after the other, and they're very the quests in this game. The main quests in this game, there's not a lot of them, but they're pretty long. They're pretty lengthy. There's a lot going on. And that's it's one of the first things you end up doing, or something that happens, is a nearby town near the big city in this game is called Radai, and there's a village nearby that gets attacked, and so you have to go there and investigate. And this investigation will take you across almost the entire countryside. You're going from one town to the next to a bunch of charcoal burners, trying to figure out who burnt the town down, who's responsible. Eventually you get to this point where you have to scout out a big raider camp, and then you have to actually help attack the big raider camp in a big battle sequence. And it's that's all this one quest. It's literally just this one big meaty quest. And that's what a lot of not all, but a lot of the main quests are is they have a lot of meat on the bones. You spend a lot of time in this quest. You're learning a lot about different characters, and like what roles they play in the story, and you're learning how to solve problems one way or another. Um, so the story wise, it's got a lot going on there. The stuff you see in the plot is very minimum compared to what's like happening in the big role of things. I guess you could say, but the big role of things are mainly a backdrop to set up events that happen inside the game. So it all plays within service of each of everything. Um, eventually, uh, at some point early in the story, your father was building a sword for Sir Radzik, and then you lose the sword because you're kind of a bumbling idiot, and you have to, like, one of the quests in this game is you have to find that sword. Spoiler warning, you do not find the sword. You're not in this game. So, and it's a really nice sword too, so I was disappointed by that. Um, but yeah, you basically are constantly, like, just one thing after another, like meeting new people, uncovering more stuff in the plot. Um, eventually, it all culminates when you find a even bigger raider camp. So everybody decides to attack this raider camp, and then it turns out that the leaders of the raiders um, knew you were coming, so they took the opportunity to attack Talmberg. So you go back to Talmberg, and the bad guys have captured the castle, and they have also, and in one of the attempts to retake the castle, they capture Sir Radzik and some lady. Uh, some lady. Fuck her and her name. I don't care. So they capture these two people, very important people, and so you basically have to siege Talmberg, and during the siege and all that, through one thing after another, you learn that it turns out the blacksmith guy was not actually your father. Your real father is Sir Radzik. Spoiler warning. Late spoiler warning. Uh, basically, um, this goes back to like how nobility and such worked in the medieval times. You weren't a nobleman, a royalty. They couldn't just marry anybody they wanted to. There was like rules, and one of the rules is you couldn't marry a commoner. And Radzik, well, he fucked a commoner and made a baby with the commoner, and so he had to basically like hide the fact that he had this son with a commoner, and that comes out in the plot later on. And honestly, it's kind of funny, but there is like a hint here and there that kind of gives you the idea, gives you a hints that this is what it's going on, especially since Henry and Sir Radzik do kind of bear a resemblance to each other a little bit. Um, so there's little hints of it, but it's not like it is a twist. It is certainly a twist to learn that information. You do save Radzik and Talmberg and the lady from Talmberg. Very important important lady person whose name I forgot. uh, Bottom line is you do save him. You do, and then the bad guy gets away. And then the game ends, but then like they kind of have like a pretty like somewhat chunky prologue section where they kind of like, well, one it acts as like the what is that term? It's like the post game section where you're allowed to keep continuing to play the game, and then the other part of it is and then basically it's like leading. It's also you can finish the game, and and it's supposed to lead into where the sequel's taking you next. So there is a lot in this game to digest story wise. It's not a very complicated story. It's just there is a lot like kind of going on in terms of understanding like historical events and how they work, and keeping track of like who's working with who and stuff. So there's a lot there. It's not overly complicated once you play it, but it is kind of like in like when you like look back at it, it's like there's a lot of story there, and it's not in the story itself isn't actually that long, and the part that is chunky about this game is actually the gameplay itself, which I will get into. So this has got to probably be by far the most in-depth RPG I have ever played. Um, for multiple reasons. That doesn't mean it's a perfect RPG. There are issues, but and of which I will address as I come across them and think of them. But the bottom line is that I have never played an RPG where it takes many different little factors into consideration. So, as I said, you start off the game as the blacksmith's son. And so, since this game is trying to be realistic, that means that you don't know how to fight. And and it doesn't matter if you know how to play this game. Henry doesn't know how to fight. So you can know how to fight, but it won't matter. Henry will always suck until you level up. So at first, Henry's going to be dog shit at fighting. But if you actually do training, you get better at fighting. And then the more fighting you do, the better at fighting you get. And you also unlock more perks and stuff, which will play into that. But the bottom line is that Henry is dog shit at everything. You have to make him not dog shit at everything. He will suck at sword fighting, fighting with a mace, which you would think would be easy because it's literally just a big metal club. It's not. It's not easy. A bow and arrow. Bow and arrow in this game it's probably the most difficult bow and arrow gameplay I have ever experienced. It's almost like completely realistic because of the fact that you don't have a crosshair, so you have to eyeball it when you're aiming it. And on top of that, once again, Henry sucks at everything, so you have to level him up to make him better. Alchemy, it's really cool because you don't just, it's not like Skyrim where it's like you go pick some flowers and then you walk to the crafting table and then you just tap X on like the recipe you want to craft. In this game, you actually have to pick ingredients out of like sacks and stuff, and you have to cook the ingredients or ground them up if they need to be grounded up. You have to like follow the instructions properly in order to make a good potion. And it's tricky at first, but once you understand how everything works and get the hang of it, it works like a charm. Reading. This is like my favorite thing about this game is the reading. And not because like I actually sat there and read books and shit, but basically Henry isn't educated. He's a peasant. And peasants in medieval times did not receive an education. So Henry does not know how to read. And you might think, well, I know how to read. Well, don't worry, you get to experience dyslexia. You get to experience virtual dyslexia. They literally scramble the words on whatever you're trying to read, basically, like books or notes, so that way you can't read it. And then the only way you can read is you have to go to a scribe, and he'll give you lessons on and start you on teaching you how to read. But even after then, it's like they will scramble a couple of words here and there, and the only way that gets fixed is if you keep reading and improving the skill. And again, this will apply to literally everything in the game. Fist fighting. In the beginning of the game, you're dog shit at fist fighting. You'll probably get your ass handed to you. By the end of the game, you will learn the ability to stun lock opponents and continuously bash their head into your knee, and they will not be able to counter you because you keep stun locking them in this broken maneuver. Horseback riding even it's not as tedious to train yourself for, but it is something that it is a skill you have when you learn more and more about it, you get better at it. Pebbles is your default horse, and I love him. But you can get better horses than Pebbles. Don't be just because I love Pebbles doesn't mean you have to love Pebbles. So there's tons of that going on in this game, and it's really good, and I love it. Um, the dialogue in this game, even like, so if I can compare this to say Fallout New Vegas, the way what is it called, speech checks work in Fallout games is your character builds up a skill, and then if that skill comes up in a conversation, if your skill is high enough, you can pass the skill check. In Kingdom Come Deliverance, it doesn't quite work that way. Even if your character has high speech, it doesn't mean you're going to immediately always persuade the people you're talking to. Other things do come into play for having conversations. So, for instance, your status. If you're in a town and everybody hates you, you'll have a harder time convincing people to listen to you. Your hygiene. Is your character clean? Do you keep your clothes clean? Do you keep your armor clean? Do you repair your armor? That stuff can actually play into it. And then there's even perks that play into it. Like you can get a perk where you're better at speaking to nobility than you are to peasants. And then they have an opposite version of the perk. You can't have both perks at the same time. You can only you have to pick one and stick with it. I would probably recommend sticking with the one where you're better at speaking to peasants, because you're going to speak to more peasants than you're going to speak to nobility. To circle back to combat real quick, the combat in this game is extremely, I shouldn't say extremely, it's very in-depth. You have to, it's not a game you can run in and just bash people. At one point, I was full kit of armor and everything, and I got ambushed by like 4 guys with rags and sticks in the woods, and I thought like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get these fuckers for sure, and like, sure enough, nope, they fucking got me. They took one like bad swing, and this guy stun locked me with his big like wooden like fucking spear he had, and it was over. All 4 of them just got around me, dead and gone. So it's definitely not a game where you're gonna just like rush in and just be, just like fuck people up just by being super aggressive. You have to take your time and study your enemies. It helps if there's friendly AI around to help you in a fight, for sure. I would highly recommend if you're in a group fight, just wait for the enemies to have their backs turned to you, and then be a dishonorable piece of shit and stab them in the back. I recommend it. 6 out of 7 doctors would also recommend it. But yeah, it's a very like in-depth combat and stuff. It takes time to like learn it, and you will definitely not do good if you don't get some training. If you get trained, to quote Garen Thumb, you can have all the nice gear you want, but if you have no training and don't know how to use it, that gear is meaningless. So make sure you get a little bit of training and practice it, and then you'll be golden in this combat. I actually did not learn the parry system in this game. There is a parry system, but you have to go for like a second round of training with Captain Bernard. He'll teach you how to parry enemies, and I never got around to it. So, big part of this game, I just ran around not knowing how to fucking parry. So, kudos. Kudos to the combat in this game for being in depth like that. Let's see. A couple of the gripes I got. One is ironically the archery. I was, like talking up how like amazing, how like in depth it is. It's also kind of annoying. It is really annoying when you are trying to. Hold on a minute. My beard is rubbing the microphone. Will I edit that in post? Probably. Um, so it's really annoying learning how to do archery in this game because it's just frankly really it's just not fun like sitting there trying to like learn where on the screen the arrow is supposed to go and all that and stuff. So it would have been nice if maybe not if like a crosshair that has 100% accuracy, but something that kind of at least gives you an idea of where the arrow is going to land, because it is like tedious. It's just tedious. It's not really fun. Um, Lockpicking in this game is dog shit. It's absolute horseradish bullshit. Um, Especially with a controller. It's the mini game is really annoying. It's like you have to hold this like dot in a specific location while rotating a circle full of spikes, and if you fucking and it's like if you fucking mess it up somehow, it will break your lockpick, and it's like really impossible to tell where you are when you're playing that. So I just really don't care for it. It's annoying. You can go away. You can eat shit and die. Um, and probably the oh yeah, not being able to do potions in combat. Now I understand when you're in like direct combat where you're like literally face to face with an enemy, but you can't. I can't for the life of me see how you can justify telling a player they can't use health items when they're not participating directly in the combat and it's just happening nearby. It happens way too often where you'll be, like in this particular example right here, you can actually see on screen, it's one of the big fights, and I needed to heal at one point, but I couldn't because the game doesn't let you, and it's like nobody's attacking me, and I'm not in direct combat, so it's like I can't use health items yet. No, you can't. Fuck you. It's like okay. um. So yeah, it's kind of annoying. I wish they would have thought about that, but they didn't. Maybe they did, but they thought, hey, fuck you. It's just kind of annoying when you're in a long combat session and you can't actually take the time to heal yourself, because especially in this particular instance here, towards the end you have to fight like a boss fight, and I mean it was a miracle I made it to that boss fight, but I did. But still, it would have been nice to not have to worry about that, because the game saves and like in the weirdest places, and you also just don't want to redo the quest. It's a whole fucking deal. It's a whole deal. Uh, so, yes, the combat in this game is very in depth and stuff, but it's got a couple of holes in it. Everything's in everything in this game's in depth. Even eating food and sleeping is important in this game. You have to take care of yourself in this game. Having a full belly and a good night's rest can mean the difference between your hits landing, or your character not being able to stay awake while standing up. Because if you don't get enough sleep in this game, your character will literally fall asleep while standing up. So, yeah, there is a lot in this game to pick apart and digest. Ironically, despite the fact that the first review was also only half an hour, I don't know if I can go longer than half an hour in this video, because I think I've said all I could really say about it. There's not much else I can really get into. Really, it's just kind of I think everything's just out. All the cards are out on the table for you. It's a good game. I like it. It's not perfect. It's not for everybody. If you're not into a more slow, action-packed type of game where it's like, yeah, there's action, but things take time and you have to learn them, you're not going to like this game. But if you are like me and you're a vindictive motherfucker, you might like this game. It's a difficult game too. If you're someone who enjoys difficult challenges, you will probably like this game because it is a difficult challenge. Um, it's not quite like Dark Souls, but it's like a happy medium between um, a game where you can like learn and improve, but still, even in the late game, have challenge to to you. So, yeah, I think that's all I got to say about this game. I heard that there is a sequel in the works. I hope so, because I would enjoy a sequel to this game. Anyway, I think that's all I got to say about this game. Uh, Next video will probably be a Red Dead 2 video. Anyway, take care, everybody. Goodbye.